Malaysia now requires a license for social media services that have over 8 million users. Here to discuss this are Siraj Jalil from Malaysia Cyber Consumer Association and Dr. Hussein Jazri from Taylor's University. Professor Jaz, why did Malaysia decide to bring in this rule in the first place?
This rule is coming by surprise as well, because knowing the current government, who has been in power for several years and who was also promoting a lot more media freedom in the past, passing this law now after a couple of years in power, I think it is also a surprise to not just me but to many. Nevertheless, the introduction of these laws to me is inevitable. It's just a matter of time and the timing of it to be done, due to the developments that is happening not just in Malaysia but as well as overseas, beyond Malaysia, the geopolitical situation in the world, which renders a lot of cross-border issues, crimes, cyber crimes, and whether it is related to hardcore crime directly or even content related that is sensitive to the culture of a specific country and the norms and the values of a specific countries and organizations.
Going to Siraj this time, how can we balance cybercrime regulation with freedom of expression?
There will be a need for clear guidelines on how and when enforcement actions should be taken to avoid unnecessary infringement on privacy or freedom of expression. In Malaysia, we have, for example, we have three terms that are very sacred. 3R, we call it at first by religion, second by race, and the third one is royalty. So any content that breaching these three areas should be taken action by the enforcement in Malaysia. When it comes to the policy making itself, they should involve with the stakeholders, especially from the non-government organizations, so that any kind of guidelines or regulations produced or implemented for the society must be understandable for any layers, so that it will not backfiring the government related to freedom of our expression area. And then oversighting the mechanism could be introduced to monitor and review enforcement actions, ensuring they align with the principles of fairness and justice.
Any legal implications that this would have for companies operating within Malaysia?
So any companies must enhance their obligations for data protection, including the need for clear and transparent data handling practices, front end, back end, any process of data handling from consumer information collections up to how they manage and store the data safely. It will impact faster response time between business operations and also by the regulators. In Malaysia, we call it Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commissions. I believe that stricter penalties for non-compliance, any unfollowed guidelines by any parties, especially the social media platform itself, failure to comply with this regulation could result in significant fines, legal action, or even suspension of services within Malaysia.
I think this will be affecting a lot more international companies that are operating in Malaysia, more than companies that are operating, a local company that are operating in Malaysia. I think the issue here is the effect of it can be seen, and whether it is big or small, yet to be seen. Whether it is effective is also yet to be seen, because for me, a lot of issues here, especially social media content related, are international in nature. And the operations and the content creations comes from not necessarily from Malaysia or in Malaysia alone, but it can also comes from overseas.
Just a follow-up on that, Professor Jazz, how might this change the enforcement of existing cybercrime laws?
Not much changes would happen in terms of the enforcement of cybercrimes law in Malaysia, because the cybercrimes laws in Malaysia can operate independently with whether Malaysia has media licensing or not. Uh, Especially when these laws are operating to deals with various issues of cybercrimes. We hope that by the introduction of the social media law, it will help a bit in terms of the facilitation of the enforcement. As I said to you, that cyber laws are not to be seen alone in seclusion by countries, because the sources of contents coming from around the world, and sometimes local law alone might not be effective to counter these problems.
We can see that the industry from the IT industry will merge with the a legal expertise in terms of cyber law, and then it also can increase the role of a lawyer to play a crucial role in advising businesses on navigating these complex regulations, and then minimizing legal risks and ensuring compliance. And there may be an increase in litigation, particularly around areas where the regulations are unclear or contested. In Malaysia, we have cyber court. Last time, cyber court very unaware amongst Malaysians, but I believe after this regulation implemented in our society, cyber court will become one of the most popular in Malaysia. So absolutely, the social media guidelines will should have a better advocacy, not just by the government itself, but also any organization that have staff or their representative to understand what is should do and should don't in one action through social media. The legal landscape in Malaysia will continue to evolve as these regulations are implemented, with legal professionals at the forefront of advising on best practices and a compliance strategy.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Siraj and Professor Jazz.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Once again, those were Siraj Jalil, President of Malaysia Cyber Consumer Association, and Dr. Hussein Jazri, Associate Professor at Taylor's University. For more news, visit govmedia.com.